2 playoff spots are still up for grabs.
4 teams still have a chance.
Somebody call the captain, because it's crunch time in Major League Soccer. Hello everybody, Greg and Shep Messing here for another edition of MLSnet.com's Extra Time, and this is what it's all come down to. The last week, Shep, 7 games we played in the league, 5 of those games having massive ramifications. As we said at the top, 2 playoff spots open, 4 teams fighting for them. One of them is Los Angeles. They have a huge game on Thursday. New York flying out to LA. LA really needs to get a win here, a win in their next game, and they're in.
Greg, this is a finish to the season, I think, that Major League Soccer dreamed about. This LA-New York final. LA, after being in the depths all year, they control their own destiny. But big, bad New York and Bruce Arena, what's he going to do? Is he going to rest his players? I don't think so. I think he's going to bring his big boys because I think he wants to go into the playoffs with a 2-game winning streak.
Do you agree with that strategy? Because for me, I think they need that rest. JUAN Pablo Angel flying across, Vandenberg, Waterroos, a couple of old guys. Obviously, you want to get Claudio Reyna maybe integrated back into the team, but for me, I think they should rest some guys.
I'll go with Bruce Arena, and I'm not sure he's going to do that. I'm just speculating that he's going to play his big boys. I think it's important. They knocked off Kansas City in the last game. They're playing against New England in the playoffs. I think it's important that they get into the playoffs with a 2-game winning streak.
Well, certainly. And speaking of winning streaks, Los Angeles has won 5 in a row now. They're playing like a team that we have never seen them play this year. This might have been the longest streak they've had in a couple of years, actually. And right now, Landon Donovan playing well. For me, I think Chris Klein has been phenomenal the last couple of weeks. And, can they get the points?
Greg, you made a great point on this show weeks ago that LA, when they had the Beckham publicity, they kind of shriveled. And when Beckham was gone and injured, that's when they had the resurgence.
No more pressure, right?
But Beckham's back. So what happens now? Does he play?
Well, as far as I know, Beckham has been training for the last week. There's a very good chance he might get 20, 15 minutes. That's what Frank Yallop has said. But, what a great option to bring in late in the game.
Not a bad guy to bring in for a free kick if LA needs a goal. I think this is going to be huge drama. And again, I think Bruce Arena is going for a victory. Frankie Yallop is going to have to fight for one himself.
Well, that's good. This is going to be a great game. Thursday night, 9 o'clock. It's on ESPN2, so you have a national audience who can stand the pressure. So Saturday night, a lot of things are going to be determined. It all starts off with Kansas City going down to Dallas. Kansas City, if they win, they're in. If they tie, they need some other results to go their way. Dallas, on the other hand, they've started to roll a little bit. They have a couple of questions up top, but Kansas City, can they get it done down there?
Greg, they've been struggling. They played against New York, could have clinched the deal, and this guy, nightmare, gave away a PK, tripped on the ball, fell down, gave New York 2 goals. And he's a good player. I like him. But he had a nightmare, and I think that's reflective of how Kansas City has been playing. Well, Eddie Johnson's their big guy. He steps up, misses a PK.
That's a problem right there. I mean, Eddie Johnson, he hasn't scored in the last 4 games. The team is 2-7-2 in their last 11. Jose Burciaga Jr. just having nightmares all over the field. Kansas City, they need to find something. I mean, can Eddie Johnson be the man for them?
Well, I don't think Eddie Johnson has shown when it's critical, when it's crunch time, as you alluded to, that he can score goals. Right. They need him to step up, and they're going to be playing, as you mentioned, a Dallas team that has something to prove.
Yeah, they do have something to prove. Kenny Cooper is getting back into the things. Carlos Ruiz coming off of suspension. Now, the big question for Dallas, they have all sorts of questions actually, is do you play Danielson? Who's going to play in goal?
I like this Dallas team, but this doesn't bode well for Kansas City because Stevie Morrow's going to come out and he wants a good, fluid victory. I don't think you start Danielson. To me, Danielson, when he came to the team, as great as he is, he interrupted the chemistry, the flow. He's a dangerous guy to bring off the bench.
Well, that's the thing. You could definitely bring him off the bench for the last 20 minutes of the game. Hit a free kick maybe, take a player on, create a 2-on-1 situation. But also in the goal, they have some questions. Ray Burst Jr. has looked great lately. Dario Sala's coming off of injury, though.
I still think Dario Sala's the man. I love the way Ray Burst Jr. has played. But going into the playoffs, I think it's Dario Sala in goal.
Well, getting into the playoffs is the problem for Colorado right now. They need a win as well, and they're hosting their big-time Rocky Mountain rivals, Real Salt Lake. These two teams definitely have a history. They're fighting for the Rocky Mountain Cup. They've traded players back and forth. They've traded words back and forth, and Colorado needs some points here.
Greg, I don't care about these manufactured cups, the Rocky Mountain, the DC United, Atlantic Cup. I don't care about those, but you're right. For Real Salt Lake, they had a nightmare season, fired the coach. Jason Christ really tightened things up. this is their whole season. Yeah. If they can go in, knock their big rival, Colorado, out of the playoffs, it really sends them into the offseason on an up note.
Yeah, and the players, they're right now playing for contracts. These are guys who want to stick around. They need this one, so they're coming out to play. Now, Colorado, on the other hand, they certainly need these points, and they've got a player that's starting to really rack them up right now. Connor Casey looked like just a phenomenal player this past weekend.
You and I have talked about it, Greg. It's not just flash and goal scoring. He can hold the ball. He's a big, strong target player, dictates the tempo. What a dramatic setup, that winning goal away at Chivas that Colorado needed, 90th minute. That's spectacular.
It was. And you know what? Chivas hadn't lost a game at home all season long, and Colorado comes in and gets this. And also another big guy, Buna Kundul, the keeper for Colorado, was huge.
Buna time. I love the way the kid is playing. New York City kid, went to high school here, so they're doing well, Colorado. I think they have a shot.
They do have a shot, but they're going to need some help from some other teams. Colorado's going to be playing Real Salt Lake Saturday night. Late on Saturday, Houston goes out to Chivas USA for a big match to decide who wins the Western Conference. Now, whoever wins it ends up with home field advantage through the playoffs. Houston has had Chivas' number this year, but they haven't gone to Chivas. Chivas have lost one game at home so far this year. What's going to happen in this one?
Greg, I feel badly. Chivas, I think, had a miraculous season, but I think they're very dependent on their star striker, who they've lost, Ante Razov. So I see Chivas going in the wrong direction. This guy, Brian Ching, a little bit of a bad back, but you know what? Houston has the depth.
Yeah, they really do.
They have quality really all over the field.
Yeah, and up top, their depth is amazing when you think of Joseph Nguyen, Nate Jakwa. They're getting Brian Ching back. Paul Dalglish has now been playing with the reserves. They have all those weapons. Of course, De Rosario in behind them. Something that basically Chivas doesn't have. Razov goes out, loses his, that's 11 goals right there. But more importantly, they lose his leadership.
There's no question. I mean, they're still solid in the midfield. They're strong in back. They're great in goal. But I think the issue will be scoring goals. They're going to battle. Both of those teams want first spot.
Well, the other thing, though, is that Houston will be without Eddie Robinson and Ryan Cochran for this game. So that will be a big question for them in back. However, I think Houston's going to be out there to try and set the tone for the playoffs, make a statement in this one.
Yeah, it should be good. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, but nothing like what's going to happen on Sunday afternoon. Los Angeles going to Chicago. Most likely, all the marbles will be on the line. Let's just assume that Los Angeles gets a point against New York on Thursday night in LA. Then they fly to Chicago, and basically, winner takes all.
Yeah, this is spectacular. When Major League Soccer, Greg, dreamt up the Beckham rule, this is what they had in mind. Imagine LA going into that pit with a wild crowd in Chicago.
Yep. Section 8 will be rocking.
And you got Blanco the villain, you got Beckham the golden boy. This is magical.
It is going to be terrific. And LA on a 5-game winning streak. They had a decent win against Toronto this past weekend. They haven't really looked dominating. However, they're getting the points, and that's really what it comes down to at this point in the season.
If it comes down to this game, though, Greg, I actually like the Galaxy chances better than Chicago because I think the Galaxy have played more fluidly as a unit. They'll be riding this winning streak. Chicago, it's been the individual brilliance of Blanco, Wanchope, and Conde. But 11 against 11, I'd give the edge to LA coming in.
Well, let me throw a wrench in that. Chicago does have the kind of forward, big, strong forward that gives LA problems. Paulo Wanchope. He's the kind of guy that has given LA defenses problems all year long. There's a question I have as to whether LA can really handle him, especially when you have Blanco coming in behind him like that. Now, the other issue that comes in, Landon Donovan.
Well, I'm going to stay away from Landon Donovan this week, but I'll tell you what, in a big game, 2 even teams, it's often determined by the goalkeeper. In that case, I'd give it to LA and Joe Cannon.
Well, Joe Cannon has certainly looked great. I still think that Landon Donovan is the key to this game. If he plays like Landon can, they're going to take the points. If he doesn't play like Landon can, I think they're out of the playoffs and they go home. Time to start hitting some golf balls. Now, we will be here next week to discuss all of this regardless of how it all shakes out. If you have any questions or comments, opinions, thoughts, criticisms, you can email us at extratime@mlsnet.com. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. Next week I'll be here, Shep will be here, and we will take it around.